Good morning. This is Eva Ang with NCR News. Heavy traffic continues to... change the... Breaking news! Representative Strobel has just presented unheard of before policy in the Legislative House. We have someone with her now. Roxy?
Representative Strobel, can you please discuss what was just brought up on the floor?
Yes, I brought it up, and yes, I intend to carry it out. Immigration in this country is out of control. Policies change based on the president in the office and their agenda. It is contradictory and it is confusing. We have seen it before with women's suffrage and Civil War amendments. We need to amend the Constitution. We need to do it now.
Oh, wow. This is coming in just as it is for all of you right now. Is this even possible? Let's talk about it with Immigration Coordinator Evangeline Engstrom. Thank you, Eva. Immigration is a very hot topic in American political culture. For obvious reasons, it impacts millions of people immigrating every year. Immigration policy changes quite frequently, and this is because when a president leaves office, a new president comes in with a different agenda. So with these constant changes of agenda, it leads to confusion, conflict, and constant backtracking. So what does the Constitution actually say about immigration? Quite literally nothing. In Article 1, Section 8, Clause 4, and I'm paraphrasing here, it says, Congress will have the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. But there's a big difference between naturalization and immigration. Immigration happens when one person moves from one country to another. However, naturalization is only able to happen after immigration. Naturalization is when that one person who moved from the country wants to become a citizen and the steps that it takes to become a citizen of that country, which allows them to have different rights. But the 10th Amendment and the Constitution are very unclear when it comes to immigration. Who gets what? This leads to the problem. Federal government and state and local governments do not know what to do with each other, especially when they have different beliefs and opinions of how immigration should be handled safely. So one might wonder, why did the Founding Fathers include tiny details in the Constitution but left out a huge thing, immigration? Well, Theresa Lamb in her thesis argues that it's because the Founding Fathers were actually for immigration. Thomas Paine echoed in his view of the rights of man that, quote, if there is a country in the world where concord would be least expected, it is America. He wrote, made up as it is of people from different nations, accustomed to different forms and habits of government, speaking different languages, and more different in their modes of worship. And he argued that government protects the equal rights of all. So clearly a Founding Father was in support of immigration. One of the biggest conflicts between federal and state power is the idea of sanctuary cities and sanctuary policies. Sanctuary cities are jurisdictions that limit their cooperation with federal executive orders or laws about immigration. Sanctuary policy is typically something that lowers the amount of federal power within that jurisdiction, such as holding immigrants in a prison cell like a detainer or cooperating with ICE agents. Some of the biggest sanctuary cities in the US are New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, and Seattle. The Supreme Court has ruled it is not directly a crime for an undocumented immigrant to be present in the United States. A common misconception is that sanctuary cities conceal and hide illegal immigrants who are behaving criminally. However, that is simply not true. According to American Immigration Council, sanctuary cities still abide by federal, state, and local laws and can still arrest illegal immigrants for behaving criminally. A common conflict arises when state or sanctuary cities are not following federal mandates or executive orders, and this can lead to the federal government cutting or limiting funding for that state or sanctuary city. In U.S. v. California of 2019, under the Trump administration, the federal government sued and argued that California's non-cooperation policies illegally interfered with the federal mandates. However, in the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, it was ruled in favor of California, and they upholded most of the state's sanctuary policies, including Senate Bill 54. States have zero obligation to assist federal agents with civil immigration enforcement, and non-cooperation is legal. And this was a landmark court case in the immigration sphere. It has been deemed that state and local participation in federal executive orders based on immigration is voluntary and not mandatory, meaning states have the choice whether or not they will follow executive orders given by the president. And this is why across state lines, treatment towards immigrants differs extremely. IRA, which is Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigration Responsibility Act, signed by Bill Clinton, is one of these landmark pieces of legislation. IRA penalized immigrants who were staying in the U.S. illegally. If it was from 180 to 365 days, they had to go back to their home country for 3 years. And if they were in the country for over 365 days, they couldn't come back to the U.S. legally until they were in their home country for 10 years. This piece of legislation backfired and instead incentivized people who were here illegally to not report crimes because they were afraid that if police showed up, they were then going to be detained and deported. Before I share the next case, the term anti-commandeering doctrine must be defined. So in the court case New York v. U.S. of 1992, it was ruled that political expediency does not overrule the Constitution. It was a very unique case about waste and how to remove it, and the federal government was telling the states what to do. However, in this case, it was ruled that the federal government cannot commandeer or directly tell the states to make a specific law. And it could be argued in reverse. The federal government cannot not tell the states to make a law or tell them to remove a law unless it goes against the Constitution. Moving on, the Supreme Court case Prince v. United States of 1997, it was ruled that the federal government cannot force state and local law enforcement officers to conduct background checks on buying handguns. The ruling is the main importance of this case. It upheld the importance of the 10th Amendment and the anti-commandeering doctrine. This precedent can be used to argue that the federal government cannot tell the states to follow their executive orders for immigration. This is where the conflict between the federal, state, and local governments happen. Who is better equipped to handle this crisis? It is often argued that states are better equipped to handle immigration policies in their state because they know their citizens better than the federal government knows them. And I do think that this is true to an extent. Jurisdictional theory is the theory that states or the federal government, the jurisdiction has the power to make laws and execute those laws. In Teresa Lamb's thesis, she says, a lack of coordination among various policy-making bodies for immigration enforcement has created cross-jurisdictional conflict and overlap, which results in uncertainty among immigrants regarding which policy will prevail. This contradiction should not stand in America, and we need to change it now. But we also need to respect laws and respect the safety of our citizens and immigrants that are here. A big act of federalism. And that is why we need to make it clear. We need to make an amendment, and we need to make it soon. This solution would allow not just one party ideology to be then decided for the next 4 years or 8 years for the immigration status in this country. We need a foundation. We need some sort of definition to the limit of federal and state power. This is the solution. This would be that limit. This amendment could also grant states control and allow local jurisdictions more power when dealing with their people of their state, their citizens, while still following the federal government rules. Amendments are hard to pass, but they aren't impossible. We have seen tremendous change with the 14th Amendment, with the 19th Amendment, with so many amendments that deal with the rights of people. In order to pass an amendment, it needs to have 2/3 of Congress agree to ratify it, or a state convention where 2/3 or 33 states agree to put the amendment in the Constitution. This state convention could bring representatives from each state where immigration policies can drastically differ, and they can talk about it, maybe even argue, maybe even fight, I don't know, hopefully not, about what they think the amendment should include, what limits the amendment should include. This would allow all sides of the political spectrum to have a say in the amendment. A unique thing about this policy is that it would be permanent and immediate, meaning that all states in the U.S. have to follow the rules set out by the amendment, which is why the presence of a state convention to create, draft, and pass this amendment is so important. Bill Clinton put it very famously, how do we be a nation of laws and of immigrants? Immigrants are a cornerstone in our country. They have been here, they will be here, and they are here. However, we also need to protect our citizens. This is how we do it, with an amendment.